Donald Trump's sudden, inexplicable hostility toward India reverses policies pursued under 5 administrations, including his own previous one. If it holds, this reversal may be the biggest strategic mistake of the Trump presidency so far.
For decades, Washington counted on India as its democratic powerhouse in Asia, a strategic counterweight to China. But now something few imagined has happened. New Delhi has reached out to Beijing. After high-level talks with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang, the first visit of someone at his rank in over 3 years, India appears to be exploring a path that could bring it closer to China than to the United States. This isn't just another diplomatic headline. It could mark a major shift in global politics. The US spent years weaving India into its strategy, confident that the partnership would hold through any storm. That confidence is now shaken. Donald Trump's abrupt hostility toward India, marked by tariffs, tough demands, and a combative tone, has unraveled decades of bipartisan policy, even reversing the approach of his own first term. If this realignment continues, some see it as potentially the biggest strategic misstep of his presidency. Trump's goal was straightforward: pressure and tariffs to box in Beijing, expecting allies to rally around Washington. But the world hasn't played along. While Trump claimed wins in the trade war, China quietly built an immense economic network across the global south. Its exports to developing nations now top $1 trillion annually, with Chinese goods, factories, and investments fueling growth from Latin America to Africa and Southeast Asia to the Middle East. China is no longer just the world's workshop. It's exporting its technological future, from smartphones and solar panels to high-speed trains and electric cars. If India aligns more closely with this system, the impact on Washington could be huge. Much of the developing world is already leaning Beijing's way, and if Asia's two giants find common ground, America's influence could fade far faster than expected. That's why Wang Yi's arrival in New Delhi carries such weight, and why its timing matters so much. For decades, India and China stood on opposite sides, scarred by the 1962 war, deadly Himalayan clashes as recently as 2020, and years of frosty relations. New Delhi banned Chinese apps, cut off investment, and moved closer to the US, especially under Modi's partnership with Trump. Now the tone is shifting. Direct flights between India and China are back after years on hold. Beijing has promised to fix India's concerns over vital imports like fertilizer components and rare earths, key for farming and industry. Talks have even begun on reopening border trade routes. Once unthinkable, Wang Yi's message is clear: partnership is on the table. For Washington, that's a strategic nightmare. The India-China divide has long been one of America's biggest advantages in Asia, helping it court New Delhi as a counterweight to Beijing. If that gap closes, US leverage shrinks fast. So why now? Much of it traces back to America's own approach. Trump's foreign policy thrived on confrontation, tariffs, sanctions, ultimatums. India went along at first. Modi even embraced the Quad alliance with the US, Japan, and Australia, designed to contain China. But pressure soon turned to friction. When Washington demanded India stop buying Russian oil, New Delhi flatly refused. Affordable energy kept inflation in check for over 1 billion people. Giving it up was never an option. That pushback exposed the limits of US influence. Instead of finding middle ground, Washington responded with lectures, threats, and sanction warnings, shifting the tone from partner to boss. China seized the moment. Wang Yi arrived with goodwill gestures, restoring flights, easing trade bottlenecks, reopening border commerce talks. India responded in kind, signaling it won't be anyone's pawn in Asia. The mistrust between India and China hasn't disappeared. The border dispute still looms, and competition runs deep. But the message is unmistakable. New Delhi is charting its own course, not taking orders from Washington. If India and China start working together, the fallout for global power dynamics could be massive. Take BRICS, for example. For years, its biggest weakness was the feud between these two Asian giants, a tension that kept it from ever rivaling the Western-led G7. But even partial cooperation could change that almost overnight. with Russia providing energy, Brazil supplying food, South Africa offering minerals, and India and China aligned, BRICS could become a formidable challenger to U.S. dominance. Even now, despite years of mistrust, India-China trade tops $135 billion annually. Remove more barriers, reopen borders, expand infrastructure projects, sign long-term energy and tech deals, and you're looking at the beginnings of a historic shift. That's why Wang Yi's visit to New Delhi matters. It's not just about calming border tensions, it's about testing whether India is ready to follow a foreign policy shaped by its own interests rather than Washington's. Part of this opening comes from Trump's heavy-handed diplomacy, tariffs, blunt demands, and an often dismissive tone toward allies. Instead of isolating Beijing, that approach nudged countries like India to look for alternatives, and instead of weakening BRICS, it may have set the stage for its rise. Meanwhile, Beijing was playing the long game. As Washington focused on punishing rivals, China turned toward the global south. Today, it sells over $1.6 trillion in goods each year to developing nations, more than it sends to the US and Europe combined. For decades, analysts claimed China needed Western consumers to thrive. Now the opposite is true. The shift didn't happen by accident. While the US imposed tariffs, China built new markets, deepening trade with Africa, pouring investment into Latin America, and expanding ties across the Middle East. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, it laid down railways, highways, ports, and digital networks, hardwiring dozens of economies into its supply chain. The result is a redrawn global trade map, where Beijing is often the preferred partner, not in Washington or Brussels, but in Nairobi, Sao Paulo, Riyadh, and Jakarta. And this isn't just about selling goods. Chinese investment is actively reshaping economies around the world. For the first time, Chinese companies are pouring more money overseas than at home, building everything from lithium mines in South America to solar farms in Africa. These aren't just deals, they're strategic footholds meant to lock in resources and influence for decades. Ironically, US tariffs meant to contain China only sped this shift up. Nowhere is it clearer than in electric vehicles. China already makes over 60% of the world's EVs, and its car makers are going global, setting up factories in Europe, distribution hubs across Southeast Asia, and winning markets in Africa and Latin America with affordable, fast-to-scale models. It's more than selling cars. It's about embedding Chinese industry directly into foreign economies, creating jobs, building infrastructure, and securing critical minerals like lithium, cobalt, and nickel that power the future of transport. Whoever controls those resources controls the market. This strategy is reshaping the global South's economy, and America's old playbook can't undo it. With Wang Yi now in New Delhi, the bigger picture is coming into focus. The US no longer writes all the rules. A new chapter is opening, and China is holding the pen. All right, that's gonna wrap it up for today. If you enjoyed hanging out, hit that like button and let me know down in the comments what you thought. And hey, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.